uneducated fleas. Do it, let's do it, let's fall in love. I'm sure giraffes on the sly do it. Heavy hippopotami do it. Let's do it, let's fall in love. The most refined ladybugs do it when a gentleman calls. Moths in your rugs do it. What's the use of mothballs in shallow shoals? English souls do it. Goldfish in the privacy of bowls do it. Let's do it. Let's fall in love.
Once upon a time, long ago, long before the birds and the bees, animals reproduced by division. When its time had come, a creature simply split in two. Each half was identical with the whole. It was a simple thing, and it worked. But in its eternal sameness, perhaps a bit boring. But one day, something happened. Something new and profound. Instead of dividing by themselves, two creatures came together for a time to exchange the vital cells of their heredity. From this union, a new life would come, a different life. It was the beginning of sex, the fuel of evolution. It would bring an abundance of living forms, and the world thereafter would never be the same. Man looks at nature with a lover's eye. He sees only what he wants to see. He seeks beauty, grace, and wonder. But mixed with these is the unyielding fact of mortality. It is a drama that enthralls us, all except the very end. Eating and being eaten, equally natural and equally inevitable. for the food of life is life itself. The tiny carcass of a mouse will become an incubator for the eggs of a common fly, and in turn the eggs will become maggots. Nothing is wasted in nature. Its efficiency defies the human imagination. Life itself never really ends. For every death, there is transformation. In 10 days, it is done. And after a period of inner development, the flies will emerge. One life is gone. Hundreds more begin. Only bone remains of the mouse, but it will decompose in time, bring rich minerals to the soil, and another form of life will surge ahead. Symbol of beauty, token of human affection, the flower is a sexual organ of plants, and the lavish seduction of the flower is but a lure for the chosen messenger of procreation, the insect. The flower's beauty veils its cunning. It yields nectar while coating the insect with its powdery sperm, minute grains of pollen. Innocent of its purpose, the insect is led to serve the sexual imperative of its host. In billions of happy accidents each year, the tiny but vital pollen grains find their intended target and prove the utility of the flower. We attend what pleases us, a field of color, a perfumed breath of wind. Yet they are merely incidental clues that the great impersonal machine of reproduction is raging on. The most powerful reproductive capacity in nature and the most alien in human eyes has been bestowed upon the insect. His instinctive couplings are strange and indiscriminate. He may live only long enough to reproduce. Were the insect a philosopher, he might well proclaim, "I mate, therefore I am." A female green spider tolerates the cautious approach of a male. As with many insects, female spiders are as likely to attack a lover as accept him. But once his sexual organ, a specialized foreleg, is pulsing in her abdomen, his intentions are known, and he is safe. In the voracious insect predator, the praying mantis, hazards for the courting male are even greater. He approaches the female with extreme caution, seeking to mount her even before she is aware of his presence. The mating begins, and now the male is committed totally to procreation. Whatever happens, he will not attempt to escape. The male continues to mate. Even when his head is severed, reflex will take over, programmed for the survival of the species. It's not known exactly why the female devours some lovers and allows others to leave unharmed. Possibly he has inadvertently triggered her aggression through some small but fatal breach of mantis etiquette. Certainly the female needs nourishment to brood her eggs, and he is a most convenient source. Whatever the answer, the mantis bears out a principle common in nature. The male role in reproduction is often brief, and there is no fundamental reason why mating should not be his final act. The female mantis will lay hundreds of fertilized eggs. Like most insects, she is a specialist in mass reproduction. An orb weaver spider squeezes from her body an egg mass almost as large as herself. This is the last climactic act of her life. The mother spider will soon die, but not before she has woven a protective cocoon around the eggs. Insulated against cold, they will survive the winter that she cannot. A voracious insect army constantly seems to threaten a revolution in the world, overwhelming and consuming all other life. But more than half of every insect generation is mere fodder for other creatures. For each species, a host of ravenous enemies lies in wait. The richer the harvest, the more the predators will thrive. In all the waters of the world, fish endlessly reenact the mysterious ritual of spawning. Guided by instincts and senses that are little understood, a pair of trout select a spawning place which offers the greatest chance of survival for their young. Churning gravel with her tail, the female prepares a shallow nest to catch her eggs. Now, with a series of subtle signals, the couple are about to release sperm and eggs. In silent communion, they simultaneously reach climax. In a crucial instant, millions of sperm and thousands of eggs swirl together. Only some of the eggs will be fertilized. Still fewer will survive to hatch. Yet the way of the fish has won survival for over 300 million years, far longer than any large animal that breeds on land. This was probably the first love song heard on Earth. Prehistoric ancestors of frogs and toads shattered the primeval silence with their mating chorus. First large animals to emerge from the sea, amphibians' reproduction still is tied to water. But unlike the subtle way of fish, frogs enact a clumsy parody of rape. Once clasped on a female, the male will cling stubbornly for days on end, awaiting the moment when her eggs will ripen. Though the female appears indifferent, the male's presence stimulates her production of eggs. His mating grip is so powerful, it sometimes leaves her scarred for life. As with fish, sperm and eggs combine externally. The exhausted parents will soon abandon them. Remarkably, the sex of many amphibians is not determined at conception. The eggs can develop into either sex. The proportion will be dictated later by environmental conditions. Even as many strange creatures have evolved, so have equally strange patterns of reproduction. Among the most bizarre and perhaps most admirable is the private life of the snail. In breeding season, any meeting of snails is a lover's rendezvous, for there is only one sex. Each has a complete set of male and female organs, and in their encounter there is an unexpected, eerie ecstasy. The mating union is formed at the neck. The two may remain joined for more than an hour. Each has organs equivalent of penis and vagina, and when they have done, each has inseminated the other. Both snails will give birth, and they are blessed with the ability to delay the eggs until the time most favorable for their young. Hatched from a thin, translucent egg, all young snails are formed like their parents, destined to be both father and mother of their kind. In the long evolution of sex, the reptile brought new and complex means of reproduction. The courtship of lizards could be mistaken for a fight. Seemingly, the male bristles with aggression. The male will try to seize the female's body with his jaws. Already, her willingness is partly evident. Normally, she would have fled before now. This is courtship in its simplest form, a ritual which impels the pair to gradually lower their normal defenses. Mating, a brief time out from the battle for survival. Only in this moment will the lizard allow such intimate contact. The moment passed, each goes its separate way. The sperm and egg have combined inside the female's body. This is the reptile's most potent invention, protection of the young in the vulnerable early stages of life. In a burrow underground, the eggs emerge. Because she has kept them secure inside her, the female need lay only a few, compared with fish and amphibians. But she has no impulse towards maternal care. She'll soon leave the eggs to hatch unattended. Guided only by instinct, the young fight their way free. From the first breath, they are active and alert. Within hours, the young lizards will venture out. Miraculously implanted in their infant minds are all the skills they'll need to survive. Soon, they'll be hunting and eating insects. It was once fancied that every bird song was a testament to love. Sadly for romantics, scientists have shown that birds sing for a variety of reasons. Still, the magic remains, an essential rite of spring. Part of man's fascination with birds is the male's bold initiative in courtship. And few courting birds have a more demanding task than the frigate bird of the Galapagos Islands. As a female passes overhead, the frantic male advertises for her favor. The huge red pouch on his neck has no function except to catch the eye of a mate. Even after a female has accepted him, the male frigate bird must endure savage harassment. Other birds try to drive the pair away, like an outraged Puritan community confronted with an illicit union. Still, the labor of love is not over. It is the male's job to gather material for the nest. With rivals on the same quest, each twig becomes the object of a spectacular contest of dominance. Thus, the frigate bird's breeding is an ordeal in which only the strongest will succeed. Yet the pairs formed now will dissolve at season's end, and next time, the rigors of courting will begin all over again. What the frigate bird achieves through display, the African weaver must accomplish with architecture. In the breeding season, he and other males compete in the building of nests. He weaves long stems of grass to form a basket-shaped ball open at the bottom. With exquisite craftsmanship, the weaver reveals the intricate workings of his untutored brain. It is this miracle for which we have no better word than instinct. The female weaver shows interest only when the nest is complete. In a materialism not without human counterpart, the home a mate can offer is her foremost concern. The weaver's reward, a mating which lasts only a few seconds. The female will now take up residence, but the male will build more nests for other mates, a tireless builder throughout the breeding season. In courtship display, the world of birds is uniquely colorful and varied. But these rituals have a common purpose. Male and female must synchronize their reproductive systems for mating, and they suit their actions to their need. The great western grebe performs a courtship ritual remarkable even in the winged world. It begins with the bobbing of heads and becomes what can only be described as a dance. Many birds, like grebes, form strong bonds and remain together after mating to nurture their young. But this behavior is rare in nature. More often, male animals show no awareness of their role. A father's care is mainly known only to birds and to man. Necessity, rather than sentiment, forges the bond among birds. Neither alone could meet the appetite of the chicks, but almost invariably, the bond will last only as long as the need of the young. Gigantic breeding rookeries serve the survival of birds like the pelican. They annually migrate to the few choice havens where predators are scarce and food is abundant for the ravenous young. The chick's appetite all but overwhelms the adult pelicans. Sometimes when food is scarce, only the strongest chicks win enough food to escape starvation. The flamingo breeds in vast colonies throughout Central Africa. The infant birds have only 11 weeks to grow large and strong enough to fly. Their parents produce a highly nourishing form of milk that aids swift development. After a few days, the chick's parents must leave to find more food. The chick wanders through a forest of legs, crying to be fed, but all other adults are indifferent, if not hostile. For a time, the chick is a lonely and hungry orphan. Incredibly, when the chick's parents return to the rookery, They apparently single out and feed their own young. Exactly how they distinguish one among thousands of chicks remains a mystery. It is the end of a long, dry summer in the American West. Clouds of dust reveal a battlefield as the breeding season of bison begins. For much of the year, bison cows and bulls drift apart. But now the huge males are drawn to the herd of cows and compelled to fight. At issue is dominance, a bull's right to keep possession of a cow for mating. Slowly, over a period of weeks, the endurance and strength of each bull will be tested against the others. Fights normally end as if by mutual agreement. The outcome is acknowledged with subtle gestures that can escape the human eye. Only the bison may know which has won a given contest. Secure in his hard-won dominant position, a successful bull moves to tend a cow, staying close by her. By smell, he tests her readiness for mating. She is fertile in only 2 or 3 days of the year. With extraordinary precision, both cow and bull sense when this time has come. After mating, cows and bulls separate once again. The cows, many pregnant, herd together as they struggle through the winter months. Now, in spring, with weather mild and food abundant, the time of birth has come. With evident pain, the mother will normally bear a single calf weighing 25 to 40 pounds. The time immediately after birth can be the most dangerous in the life of a bison. For now, the infant must rise and walk almost immediately. If it fails, its mother may abandon it. Instinct impels her to stay close to the restless herd. The newborn struggle is yet another means of natural selection. A defective calf will not survive. The strongest will quickly rise, but sometimes the issue of life and death hangs in delicate, suspenseful balance. Australia, stronghold of the kangaroos and other peculiar mammals called marsupials. Though strange in manner and movement, what truly sets these animals apart is their means of reproduction. It's such an incredible process, those who first described it were denounced as outright liars. The mating is normal enough. Females are fertile in monthly periods and will accept almost any male in the loose-knit kangaroo band. Only 40 days after successful mating, when the single baby is little more than an embryo, it is thrust from its mother's body. In another mammal, this would be a fatal miscarriage. The fetus is less than 2 inches long. Blind, guided only by touch and smell, it embarks upon a torturous journey, its very life at stake. It gropes upward across its mother's belly, seeking refuge in her pouch. The mother cannot help. If it falls or falters, it will die. Once inside the pouch, the baby must locate and attach itself to a suckling nipple. Here, it will remain and grow in safety. After this premature and dangerous adventure, several months will pass before the baby will leave the pouch. Development begun in the uterus is finished here. Until it is at least a year old, the baby kangaroo will enjoy the convenience of the pouch. It is at once his home, his transportation, and his source of food. Indeed, except for the hazardous manner of their birth, marsupials enjoy one of the best equipped mothers in the animal world. As with every animal, the kangaroo exists only because its ways work to its advantage. There are no rules of reproduction in nature, and nothing that promotes life can be termed abnormal. In all its intricate mechanisms, reproduction is the servant of a species' survival. Mice breed prolifically, simply because in nature they are so vulnerable. The age of maturity, strength of sex drive, and size of the litter all are geared to a high reproductive rate. Under optimum conditions, 2 mice will yield 200 in less than 6 months. Only man and the animals he keeps in captivity can transcend the normal checks and balances of nature. Both may avoid the threat of predators and enjoy an abundant supply of food. But sooner or later, unbounded fertility brings a crisis. In nature, birth control has always existed. In myriad ways, the urge to mate is related to the necessity of survival. Giant tortoises have no natural enemies and may live up to 100 years. They mate annually, but it is estimated that they need only 2 offspring every 10 years to hold their own. Higher primates, like baboons, mate frequently, but only 1 offspring normally results, and thus the reproductive rate is low. Some predators, like lions, can afford a prolonged and luxurious love life. A lioness comes into heat every 3 weeks. Over a period of several days, she will keep close company with a male. On the average, they will mate once every 20 minutes around the clock. In prey animals, like the Uganda kob, mating is usually hurried, but the rate of conception is high, even though the act may literally be performed on the run. Elephants have rarely been observed mating in the wild. Cows are pregnant for nearly 2 years and then bear only 1 calf. But the elephants fear no predator, and their rate of birth is more than enough to ensure that they will survive. The various species of rhinoceros show a similar pattern. Male and female rendezvous as infrequently as once every 2 years, but the mating itself can continue for more than half an hour. The forces of life, molded to meet the demands of myriad environments, have dictated many strange reproductive patterns. Some defy all conventional notions. Daphnia, a tiny relative of the lobster, has reduced the role and significance of the male to an absolute minimum. Mating between the females and the much smaller males may occur only once in dozens of generations. For the most part, Daphnia females breed new offspring with no need of mating. The cycle of virgin births can continue generation after generation. In some rare species, the only sex is female, and mating does not occur at all. Chill winds of fall warn of severe cold to come. Only a tiny fraction of the millions of Daphnia swarming below can survive the winter. Now females respond to the changing climate. They grow massive insulated egg sacs on their backs. Shed from their bodies, the sacs will lie dormant for months. But with the return of spring, they will hatch, and the species will be born again. The harsh demands of desert life have produced some of the most remarkable reproductive patterns. One begins with the mating of the Pepsis wasp. The fertilized female activates an elaborate strategy for survival. The only way her species can reproduce is through an incredible series of events. It begins as she seeks to find a dangerous enemy and do battle. By instinct, the wasp will only lay her egg on the body of a full-grown tarantula. Her quest is apparently suicidal. The tarantula is poisonous and both larger and stronger. Now the wasp will drag the tarantula back to his burrow. His own safe haven will soon become his grave. By design, the wasp has not killed the tarantula. It is merely paralyzed by her venom. If it died, it would be useless to her, for her egg will become a parasite on the tarantula's helpless body, stealing life to feed its own. The mother wasp is gone, sealing the burrow behind her. Over a period of weeks, the egg will become a larva and consume its victim. The last edible portions of the tarantula are gone. The wasp larva has swollen with new energy. Now it will seal itself into the security of a silken cocoon. Finally, after many months, metamorphosis is complete. Within the cocoon, the larva has become a wasp. If it is a female, as soon as she matures, she in turn will do battle with the tarantula. From tranquil summer seas in May and June, great numbers of Steller sea lions congregate on lonely Pacific islands. Mammals that have adapted to marine life, they still must return to land to breed and bear their young. The massive bulls, twice as large as the cows, gather their harems around them. A powerful bull can dominate as many as 20 cows. Through the breeding season, the rookery rings with raucous cries of courtship and challenge. The larger the harem, the more difficult the task of the bull. He must drive away rivals and mate with all the cows in his harem. A cow bred the previous year is in the final stages of labor. For nearly a year, she has roamed Arctic oceans, but now returns to bear her pup on the same beach where it was conceived. Like most highly evolved mammals, sea lions produce relatively few young. Their key to survival lies in the quality of maternal care. In the first days after birth, the mother and pup will form a close bond. With more than 1,000 almost identical pups in the rookery, the mother can recognize her own by the sound of its individual cry. Aggressive rivalries often flare between cows in the rookery, but the bull usually intercedes when fights disturb the comfort of his harem. As the season wears on, the bull's peacekeeping instincts wane. More and more often, the cows are free to engage in vicious squabbles. Sometimes, the pups become innocent trophies of battle. A rival has stolen a pup, the frantic mother in close pursuit. The rival cow has hurled the pup into a deep rock crevice below. She gives every evidence of malevolent glee, while the mother desperately seeks to find her child. Such savage treatment of young seems without reason. But possibly, as a population grows too large, overcrowding causes more and more fatalities among the pups. A cruel but necessary form of population control, but no solace for a grieving sea lion mother. In a few remote African game reserves, the last remaining wild chimpanzees survive, man's closest living relatives. Only recently has their complex society been scientifically studied. The chimps are found to have highly individual characters. They form close and continuing relationships. Some are timid, others gregarious. In many ways, their behavior is much like humans, their personalities beginning to emerge early in life. In the wild, a chimp may live 40 to 50 years, but until it is 10 at least, it is not socially mature. The closest bond and the most essential for survival is between mother and child. The most carefree chimps seem to be the youngest, who are regarded with tolerant affection by one and all. Occasionally, older males break into brawling, aggressive displays. Dominance among them is in constant challenge. These encounters are more bluffing contests than trials of strength. But chimps lower in rank stay discreetly out of the way. In the normal sequel to disruption, chimps solicit gestures of reassurance and comfort. The need for physical contact in moments of stress is great, evidence of deep, underlying dependent bonds. Touching the genitals and accepting a kiss is simply an elder's way of comforting an alarmed youngster. In chimps, sexual gestures often have a more general social meaning. Among the forces bonding the chimps together, the sexual attraction of a mature female coming into heat. The monthly estrus period is announced by a marked swelling of the female's sexual organs. Although she may refuse some, she will generally accept most interested males. Most matings are brief, lasting less than 10 seconds. Mating frequently draws excited spectators, especially the curious young. Surprisingly, couples react with only casual annoyance when interrupted. Sometimes a dominant male forces a female to leave the other chimps during her estrus. In this way, the general pattern of promiscuity is broken, with the stronger chimps having more opportunities to father young. It is suspected, but not proven, that chimps avoid some forms of incest. Matings between mother and son have never been observed, and between brother and sister, it is rare. A newborn, only hours old, the placenta still attached by the umbilical cord. This aging mother will be highly possessive for several months, always keeping the baby near. The mother's older children will suffer all the jealous pangs common among humans. Indeed, most of man's emotions are mirrored in the chimps. Yet they remain oblivious to certain intellectual insights, including the fateful awareness that mating results in birth. In the Bible, it was man's original sin that he ate the forbidden fruit of knowledge. And none has suffered more from that knowledge than the beasts that serve him. Of all birds, the chicken is the most numerous in the world today. And it is a creature created by man to meet human needs. These chicks are hatched as nature would have them. Roughly half are male, half female, but so specialized is their breed that we have use only for the hens. The males are immediately identified and destroyed. Enlisted in the service of human need, the females are processed with coal deficiency. Injections guard them against disease. The hens' bills are clipped to prevent them from pecking each other. Removing a wing denies the remotest possibility of flight. The hens become a standardized component of flesh, condemned to serve their entire life within a gigantic machine. They are bred only to produce eggs, and that is all they will ever do. Eggs. Each one contains the spark of Genesis. And every day, more than 200 million are laid in the United States alone. It is a miracle of efficiency and organization. But it is also a measure of man's insatiable desire to bend nature to his own ends. Reproduction is still the slave of survival, but the survival served is no longer the chickens. Man first began selective breeding thousands of years ago, and he has never stopped improving his creations. The chicken itself may soon be obsolete. Super Chicken, a giant variety weighing over 20 pounds, threatens to depose his puny relations. In a brave new world of animal genetics, gigantic stud bulls are the pampered stars. They bear the seeds of tomorrow's cattle, a superior master race to come.
$60,000 bull recently appraised at that figure. For his owners, not only has he been used in several outstanding breeding programs, but they have sold over $250,000 of semen.
Isn't he a magnificent thing? Give him a nice hand if you would, please.
Modern research centers throughout the world seek ever more efficient forms of cattle. This is a center for the production of superior sperm. The bulls here are prize specimens, but they will never see the thousands of calves they father and have never mated with a cow. An artificial vagina, one of many sophisticated aids for breeders. In the laboratory, it is sterilized and carefully warmed to the proper body temperature. The bull's sexual instincts have never been allowed to develop normally, so it can be excited merely by exposure to another male. Increasingly routine and mechanized, techniques of semen collection and storage have eliminated any necessity for contact between male and female animals. Man is the intermediary, imitating nature just enough to accomplish his ends. Teased to a state of excitement, the bull is kept short of ejaculation. Electric motors allow the artificial cow to retreat as he attempts to mount it, simulating the behavior of a flirtatious mate. Bizarre it may seem, but artificial and controlled breeding is rapidly becoming the norm in modern agriculture. With a weekly ejaculation from a single super bull, 20 to 50,000 cows can be inseminated, creating a whole new strain of animals in but 1 year. And refinements are imminent. It is already possible to separate sperm that produces male and female, determining sex before conception. Soon, in both animals and man, the sex of offspring can be deliberately chosen. More and more precisely, breeders are able to design animals simply by selecting material from genetic banks. Techniques for freezing sperm are now so far advanced that it can remain potent in cold storage for several decades at least, possibly forever. Already, the majority of domestic cows in the developed nations are inseminated artificially. Over 7 million cows are served by fewer than 2,000 bulls in a single year. The procedure is swift and simple. Chances of successful conception are as good or better than in natural mating. Medical techniques now are perfected, which enable a prize cow to produce far more than the normal number of calves. Earlier, this cow was given drugs, which caused her to superovulate, producing many eggs instead of one. Fertilized with a superior sperm by artificial insemination, the eggs will now be surgically removed from her body. A half-dozen eggs or more will be obtained, and these can be implanted in the bodies of other cows, which will serve as substitute mothers. Eventually, a small select group of super cows will probably produce eggs in massive quantity, just as bulls produce sperm. Other cows of inferior breeding will take on the chores of bearing and nursing the young. The actual mother will recover swiftly from the operation. She will be ready to donate eggs again in a matter of months. As biological science progresses, the very concept of motherhood is being altered. With laboratory animals, researchers close in on an ultimate goal: growing animals in vitro, within a womb of glass instead of flesh. The egg and sperm of a mouse are combined, not in mating, but under a microscope. With special cultivation, the egg will develop normally for several days. Like an atomic reaction, an awesome dormant energy has been released. While still of microscopic size, the developing egg is transferred to an artificial womb. Chemical and electronic devices will supply all that it needs for further growth. In the next 11 days, under careful control and observation, the mouse will grow to term. This is a scene from the not-too-distant future. When it is born, this tiny creature will bear a fateful message for the world. For when the genesis of life can be so controlled, how long can it be before the child within the machine is man? Once upon a time, long, long ago, animals reproduced by mating. Although it worked, it was crude, troublesome, and inefficient. But one day, at the hand of man, something happened, something new and profound. He assumed control of fate, the reins of evolution, and the world thereafter would never be the same.
When the little blue bird, who has never said a word, starts to sing spring, spring. When the little blue bell in the bottom of the dell starts to ring, ding, ding. When the little blue clerk in the middle of his work starts to tune to the moon up above, it is nature, that's all, simply telling us to fall in love. And that's why birds do it, bees do it, even educated fleas do it. Let's do it, let's fall in love. Cold Cape Cod clams, against their wish, do it. Even lazy jellyfish do it. Let's do it, let's fall in love. Electric eels, I might add, do it, though it shocks them, I know. Why ask if shad do it? Waiter, bring me shad roe in shallow shoals. English souls do it. goldfish in the privacy of bowls. Do it, let's do it, let's